You are listening to Episode 7 of From Sobriety to Recovery with Jesse Mogul. Let's get to the show. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you again for joining me here at From Sobriety to Recovery. I am your host, Jesse Mogul. Coming up on my 25-month anniversary. It is coming Wednesday. Super excited. Still to the, I don't know if I ever want that feeling of the anniversaries to go away. You know, they're the 13th of every month, and my birthday is on the 15th of June. So in my head, it's very easy to remember because my birthday, if I was counting them every 15th, is 13th is boom, right there. And so remembering it is super awesome. And just having passed 2 years, coming up on 25 months. My mother passed away on Valentine's Day in 2007. So we're coming up on the 12-year anniversary of that. And so that's on the 14th. And so it's a very big, monumental, because mother passed away because she had Crohn's. But ultimately, it was alcoholism and a very healthy Xanax, amitriptyline addiction that did her in. And I'll bring her into some more of these stories down the road. But today, what we're going to discuss was my emotional reaction to an Instagram meme that got me really thinking about how people choose to get into sobriety and grow into recovery, and how willing other people are to accept the choices that they make while they're doing it. I'll tell you what the meme says, first of all. It was on this one Instagram page called 12_step_memes. And if you guys all go and follow him, more power to you. I actually follow him as well. I think that there's hilarious stuff coming on in there. And a lot of these things on Instagram are quite funny. And I like the humorous spin. I mean, I do also enjoy posting things that are in depth and that are more vulnerable and from the heart. But I'm definitely noticing that humor plays a really cool part in this too, because I think that humor and laughter is the cure for most ills. It certainly is a way to change your state rather quickly if you're not feeling very good in a particular moment. And we're going to go into some state-changing ideas here a little bit later. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and add that to my notes as I am looking over the meme. So it's this meme of a dog wearing a headset. And above the picture, it goes, actual picture of me neglecting step and service work with others to focus, in quotation marks, focuses, on my memes, podcasts, life coaching, and social media. In the bottom of the picture, it says, time to open retrievingrecovery.com. And it's a golden retriever wearing a headset sitting in front of a computer. And what made me laugh at this first, I'm emotionally triggered. I got a bit angry about it, but only after I laughed, because that's me, of focusing. I mean, I don't understand the quotations of focus, but memes, podcasts, life coaching, and social media. I do all four of those things. And so I'm just like, wait. Am I ignoring my recovery in favor of helping other people, or just doing all of this as a smoke screen to my actual work? I have a meeting with my therapist, which I do every week, and that's coming up this week. And I'm going to bring this up with her, and we talk about this so frequently. It's actually something that I won't have. She'll be used to this because I bring it up a lot about my focus on my recovery, and is it there, and making sure that I'm doing the proper movements toward a prolonged and long-lasting, life-altering, recovery. Because I didn't go to AA, I didn't go to NA. I went to refuge recovery for about 6 months regularly. I haven't been in quite some time. I did smart recovery for a while. I do meetings at Kaiser through my therapist, and she's getting ready to launch one that's going to be on Monday nights that I'm super interested in, and I can't wait to join, because that one's going to be one geared towards people who've got 6 months and beyond, who are starting to perhaps, get a little bit lethargic about their recovery, and she wants to make sure that everybody's growing towards integrity, humility, and gratitude, which she's constantly pushing and talking about a ton. And that's part of what I decided I wanted to talk about this topic today, because I've had people reach out and say, specifically say, I really like what you're talking about because you're not focusing on AA, NA, Refuge. You're not focusing on one of those societal programs that people put together. You've got your own thing going on, and it's working for you, and that's really great. Because I know a lot of people who've done it outside of the AA, NA, Refuge world. And I think whatever way, first and foremost, whatever way works for you to get past that first, second, hour, day, you got to do it. If going to 30 meetings in 30 days is going to keep you from doing drugs or drinking, then do it. If going to 7 meetings a day for the first 30 days or for the first year, if that's going to do it for you, then do it. Whatever it's going to take, do it. Now, something else that came to mind that really, many things fueled this topic for me is I caught someone, I don't remember the page now, but there's 3 different ones that I've been following on Instagram that keep popping up. And the people they just started getting sober, and all 3 have relapsed at least once. One has relapsed 3 times this year already. And they're basically using Instagram as a diary, and they're getting a lot of support, and no one's dogging on them. No one, it's like, hey, you go 3 weeks and you slip, glad to have you back. But it's, they're not talking about the ways that they're going about staying sober. No one's, I've looked over them. I haven't seen anything about AA or anything of that nature. And so I wonder, what is their method? I will remind you guys that for me, whenever I chose to check myself into Kaiser and stop drinking, I was, I stopped on Friday the 13th of January of 2017, and I was basically starting I had this thing where when I would binge for 7 to 10 days, it would take my body about 7 to 10 days to recover. And through that recovery, it would be this crazy detox, the cold, hot sweats and all of that comes with it, and then not being able to eat and hold anything down, and, even water tasting horrible. And so my first 7 to 10 days were already going to be 7 to 10 days where I wasn't going to be able to drink anyways. I was putting myself through my usual detox because my body was just shutting down. I mean, almost emergency room level kind of shutdown, and I'm sure many of you understand what that means. And so by the time I got to almost week 2, I was just starting to feel like a normal human being again. And it took me about 2 months to really be able to breathe correctly and to not wake up with chest pains and things of that nature. And I'd say I didn't really start feeling whole again until the summer, right around my birthday in June. So it was a good 5 months where there was still, just my body wasn't completely right. It took a while. And so for me, those first couple of weeks were, perhaps there's someone else who just decides to stop after they've, haven't necessarily had a 10-day bender. Perhaps that drive to want to drink or use drugs is still there because they're not, not cold, hot sweats going, right? I'm not trying to deflect whatever they're going through. Just for me, that first 2 weeks was easier because I was putting myself through my normal detox. And then Kaiser started putting me into, Monday morning, Monday night, Wednesday night, therapy sessions on Thursdays, Fridays. I was in a lot of stuff. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today is what did you use to get yourself sober and to be able to stay that way? Whenever somebody sits here and says AA, NA, Refuge, Smart, Addiction Centers, Kaiser, they're the only way, I cringe. I don't think anyone has the right to say one way is better than the other. There are plenty of people who've used AA who have relapsed, and there's probably no doubt there are just as many people who have used it their own program where they just sit at home and white knuckle it, and they'll relapse. And some people have quit cold turkey and succeeded. And that's what they tell you, and you don't really know what's going on in their lives. That could just be the story they want. Oh, they want everyone to think that they were able to quit cold turkey and move on, and some people do and some people don't, right? You got to take what somebody says to you at face value. It's just when people hear that I didn't go to AA and they say, you got to do the steps and you got to do this, and if you're not doing this, you're not. I'm like, that's what you did. Like, when it comes to my recovery, I can assure you, I'm putting a ton of effort. Anyone close to me knows that I'm, constantly looking back and saying, okay, what are some of this emotional baggage I've been carrying around for so many years that has been holding me back? Because, alcohol and drugs were a solution to a problem we had back in the day that became the problem. For the reasons I started using alcohol and drugs, and I look back and I think, I had a bit of an addictive personality even as a kid. If I got bad grades, I'd put my Nintendo away for the summer. Parents would make me do that. I would choose to do that. I'd be like, no, you don't get to play video games this summer because you didn't get good enough grades. My room was meticulously clean. Even though it was cluttered, I collected baseball cards and basketball cards and magazines and books, and I read a ton. So my room had a lot of stuff in it, but it was meticulous. If you said, where's a can of air so you can blow it on your keyboard, I'd know exactly where that was in my room. So it was meticulous, and so I look... Why was I telling you guys that? Oh, my addictive personality as a child. So when my parents got divorced the summer that I turned 18 and graduated high school, I had always known that addiction had run in my family. And so when, mom moved to Florida and stepdad wasn't ever really paying attention to me much anyways, he worked a ton and provided for me greatly, but wasn't really paying attention to my behavior. Immediately that summer, I started smoking pot, I started drinking booze, took acid for the first time at a Grateful Dead concert, and then I went to college, and I wanted to party a lot and be around beautiful women, so I joined a fraternity, and that's just a haven for the use of alcohol, and my fraternity, frowned upon drug use, but I still found the little clique there that did it, so it was full on for me. And, I know that the sadness of my mom getting the disease of Crohn's and whenever I was 8 and dealing with that all the way up to 18, and then her divorcing, before I even graduated high school, this divorce stuff started. So my family was already torn apart on graduation day. And so getting to college, I was like, yeah, let's throw down. Let's do this. And I did that. I stayed in college for 22 years. That's how long I was a drunk, but I stayed in college for 12 years because it's a great place to hide out if you're an alcoholic. And so I know where a lot of this emotional damage and trauma comes from that I need to heal from. And so back then I didn't, and I used alcohol and drugs to mask it. And, still now I have these walls built up around myself. And you can call them walls, or you can call them fences, or steel slats. I got into a joke with someone the other day about the walls I've built up around myself. I'm like, yeah, who's calling them walls? They could be called slats. And just as a joke on stuff I'm sure you guys have seen within the political realm. But yeah, we build up walls, right? I'm going to assume I'm not the only one who's done that. And we have this emotional trauma, and we're trying to heal from it. And now we are stepping into this world of sobriety recovery. And so what is working for you? I did AA in college, and I wasn't a big fan of it. And whenever I got sober this time, it wasn't necessary. All right, I thought about going. I even mapped out all the meetings to go to. But I immediately did jump back into the hobbies and the interests and the passions I had for life that were taken away. And so sum all that up, as you guys get yourselves into sobriety and recovery, if you're that person at day one who keeps relapsing on day one, or if you're that person who's made it to month 1, 2, 3, 4, my therapist she stresses a lot that the difference between sobriety and recovery is sobriety is people white-knuckling it and counting days and hoping to God that they don't relapse. And people in recovery have switched their identity, and some of these words are mine and some of them are hers, the people in recovery have switched their identity from an alcoholic or a drug addict to someone in addiction recovery. And now their focus is on how can they become even better than the best version of themselves. Each day we're moving closer. Right. And we've talked about this a lot, and she'll say, those people who go to meetings every day, that's great, but are they also working on their recovery? Are they also working on their emotional problems? Are they working on their physical body? Are they working on their mental aptitude? Are they working on their spirituality? And remember, spirituality doesn't necessarily mean religion. It's just your cardinal authority. What are the values, beliefs, morals that you guide your life by? And so, she's like, when people are actively working on that, when they're journaling or meditating or thinking or having great conversations, it's not enough to just go to a meeting and talk about your day or your week and use that as a way to vent. There's got to be growth going on where you're really challenging your way of thinking to make sure that it's not holding you back from even further growth in recovery. And, and again, partial her words, partial mine. And that's really what I want people to be thinking about whenever you're going to the meetings. It's like, what habits do you need to be resetting? We live in a society that is based upon addictions. I mean, habits are just programmed, responses that your brain has to certain situations so it doesn't have to think about what the response is supposed to be. I'll repeat that if I can, that habits are just programmed, let's say they're programmed actions that your mind uses as a response to a cue so it doesn't have to think about what to do. Programmed actions. It's like I've been trying to solidify this for a little bit of time because, one, it's important to me that I fully am on board with what it exactly is, and that whenever I talk about it, that I get it. I wrote this for one of my presentations. A habit is just a programmed response to a situation that your mind has created a system for, so that it doesn't have to think about what to do next. Now, I can repeat this because I've literally written it down because it's part of a presentation I'm giving on Wednesday. A habit is just a programmed response to a situation that your mind has created a system for so that it doesn't have to think about what to do next. When your alarm goes off, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you use the restroom, you shower, you get ready. Think about what your morning routine is for a lot of people. It's literally the alarm goes off and it's get the coffee, get in the shower, get dressed, get the kids ready, if you got them, get everybody out of the house, go to work, go to school, boom, now you get to work and there it is, right? Well, for a lot of us, all of us, if you got yourself into addiction recovery, we had those habits, right? The cue, craving, response, reward. What was the cue? Got in an argument with a loved one. All right, now we get in an argument with a loved one. The cue is we need something to push back the emotions because that was too much. So we start to crave alcohol. Our response is to get alcohol, and then the reward is to drink the alcohol, and now that reward is anchored to that cue. So each time we get into an argument, each time we turn a project in at school. I have another show called College Success Habits that I really launched to talk to young kids about the habits they create to see if we can't stop them from getting where we are, right? Like, let's not have more people needing addiction recovery in the future. But unfortunately, we live in a society that, again, is propelling habits. It's a propelling addiction. Whether Steve Jobs knew it or not, he created an addiction machine whenever he first launched the iPod. Right? From the iPod came iPhones, then iPads. It's constant. The moment the internet was invented, it is just a hub for addiction. If you're whatever you're into, whether you're into porn or racism or sexism, or even if you're into good stuff like gardening, I mean, you can literally just get lost on the internet and just spend hours of your life just clicking through. Right? And you're just getting all these little images and there's these little dopamine hits, and boom, next thing you know, you've spent an entire day just doing whatever it is that you're addicted to on the internet. And in turn, we've almost got ourselves, not almost, we are into a space where we are an instant gratification society. right? One of the things I'm talking about on the presentation on Wednesday is buffering. And buffering is just something that we do so that we don't have to think about what's really hurting us. Right? If you don't want to feel negative emotions, you can buffer them away with a vice or a distraction or an escape fail. So you don't have to feel something unpleasant. Something happens in your life that's unpleasant, and so you need to push it away. So you buffer, and it's a term Brooke Castillo from the life coaching scholars or life coaching school, but I'm in her scholars program. She talks about and she uses the term buffering like a video would buffer, where you get stuck, you're stalled while it buffers, right? That's what buffering is. If you don't want to feel negative emotion, so you turn to alcohol, and that stops you. It stops you from feeling, it stops you from growing, it stops you from doing anything productive, because now you're in that habit loop that you created for yourself. But you don't have to feel anything unpleasant because you're drunk. And maybe you do, you cry while you're sitting there drunk, but you're not really healing from the problem because you're in an altered state. Okay? When we stop buffering, these are some of her words, and I'll quote them. When we stop buffering, we will experience temporary pain. All right, the pain is not caused by the lack of buffering. We need to unbuffer ourselves long enough to find the cause of the pain. What is the mess that needs to be cleaned up in your mind? Why is buffering even necessary for you? Okay, and so when you start to think about why you got yourself into this mess, that's what I think. What the hell did I do to get myself into this mess? It's all about thinking about what was I buffering. And so when you're going to these meetings, be talking about that. Going back to the meme, because we're going to be closing this up soon, what just really, again, cringes me is when I read things that aren't supportive of other people's processes. It's all about what works for someone else. All right. I don't think that if you don't go to AA, it doesn't work. I don't think that if you don't do the steps that you will fail. I don't think that at all. To me, it doesn't make any sense that one system would work for everyone, and if you don't do that one system, then nothing succeeds. There are so many different ways. Now, Refuge Recovery has the 4 truths. I looked over the 12 steps. I've done a lot of those. Maybe I didn't do them with a sponsor. I didn't do them necessarily in the order that they were on there, but I've talked and worked through everything on that list with my therapist and within my circle of trust and with other people within the sobriety and recovery community. So when you hear somebody else is doing it their way, ask them questions about how that's working for them, right? Be curious. Oh, wow, that's really cool. I never thought about that. Well, tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. And again, if you're into all the meetings, whatever it is, by no means am I saying don't do them. I'd say do whatever you want to do. Just make sure that it's all wrapped up around the web of actual getting into recovery, of figuring out what habits you need to reset, how you drive home from work, how you get to work, what you do in the morning, what you do when you come home. All right. Relapse doesn't just happen. It starts well before actual relapse. All right, this is something I've heard in many of the meetings I've gone to at Kaiser, and I've heard people who come to these who do AA and NA regularly, and they'll say, yes, we talk about that. I love that not all meetings from AA are just people in a circle sharing, that there's ones that are certain that are around each step, and there's ones where speakers come in, and there's different ones, and I've definitely already looked into I'd love to hear what some of those speakers have to say. I'd love to just see a different side of it. And that's what I would encourage everyone to do. If you think your way is the only way, go check out what some of these other people are doing. Because we all started buffering for a reason. And now that we're ready to stop the buffering and start the healing, it's going to be tough. There's going to be some pain involved because all of a sudden we have to come face to face with crap we had not thought we were going to have to come face to face with for forever. Right, I knew the moment alcohol hit my lips that this was going to be a treacherous road. And at one point in my life, I would have to stop, or I was never going to fully become the person I wanted. And so in closing, I think one of the reasons why this meme got to me was because it made me question, am I doing everything I can be doing? Right? And I like being questioned. I like questioning myself. am I doing everything I could be doing? Am I just filling up my day with learning and reading and talking and presenting and all this stuff when I'm not actually working towards what I'm supposed to be working towards? Doing an inventory of my own recovery is something I do regularly. Hell, I developed an entire program around it. So when I saw this, now I look at it and I think it's funny because in reality, like memes, podcasts, life coaching, social media, I'm like, oh my God, it's all of them. The only other one that's missing is, working out and drinking protein shakes. But there's another one for that I found. So that's it for today, guys. I just, what is it that you're using to get you into sobriety and recovery? What are you doing each second, minute, hour, day to get you guys through those very first initial days? And what is it that you'll be doing as you move forward? Figuring out a system right off the bat, day one, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be your system that you're using in perpetuity. It just means that it's a system you're using now. It's not the system you have to use forever. Whatever, just start, right? The plant the seed that sprouts doesn't necessarily know if it's going to go straight up or start growing to the side, right? It doesn't even know where the sun's going to be coming from and what angle will it ultimately start to grow, but it knows that it's growing, right? And that's the key. All these words to get to the part that just make sure you're growing. And don't be fooling yourself by filling up your day with a lot of stuff, but not actually filling it up with anything that's of quality. That, to me, is extremely important, and it's something I focus on regularly. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me here at From Sobriety to Recover Me. Please go to your favorite podcasting app that you are listening to me on. Subscribe, rate, review. I'm in 7 countries now. Colombia has found me. Greenland still has not. Still looking for Greenland. Go to Instagram at From Sobriety to Recovery. I'm very active there. I'm working on becoming more active on Facebook if that's your jam and you're normally on there. At From Sobriety to Recovery on Facebook, where all my Instagram posts go. And I'm also going to be blogging on there starting in March. And, of course, if you want to find me on Twitter, it's at Jesse Mogul. I am everywhere on the internet, and I'm the only Jesse Mogul. So it's not hard to find me, which was not a good thing in college when I got arrested, because everybody would know that was me. So thank you so much. Please go out there on social media, start up a conversation. Let me know what you guys did your first couple days, your first hour. What is it that helped you get through those first moments when you wanted to relapse? What is it that you see in yourself that you knew, no, this is the best path for me. I am growing. I am getting better. This is awesome. And I can't wait. Because I'll tell you this, my sister and I got into a great conversation, and she's going to be my first guest on the show. I'm going to bring her on next week. And we talked about how after that first year, which for some of you I get, it sounds really far away, but just let me tell you about our story. After that first year, after making it through all those firsts, it didn't get easier. It wasn't like on cruise control, but it just felt different. There was a different energy around it. She's coming up on 18 months. I'm just past 2 years. It's a different energy. It's not oh my God, I hope I don't fail today. I hope I don't drink today. Fail was the wrong word. I hope I don't use drugs today. Now it's like, okay, what is it that I'm doing to really increase my recovery and my growth? So, again, hit me up on Instagram at From Sobriety to Recovery. I love you all. Remember the power of positive energy, release and flow. Release that positive energy. Your life will flow like a river. But if you send out negativity, those little beavers of negativity will be in front of you building dams, and you'll wonder why your life isn't going as smoothly as you'd prefer. And as always, take care of one another, support one another, and know every single person's way is just as good as yours, right? That's the most important part. Somebody relapsing did not fail. They just got some feedback on what to do better next time. Much love, everyone. Take care now. See you soon. Bye-bye.